Stories impacting Montrealers. News impacting Montreal. The Elias Makos Show. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
The very dangerous people from Iran. We said, go and do your funeral stuff. And instead of that, they start shooting rockets at ships. I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll let our wonderful negotiators keep talking if they want, but I don't see it.
That's Donald Trump this week. Hopes for a pause in fighting seem to be just when hopes for a pause in fighting seem to be growing. The conflict between the U.S. and Iran has taken another turn. U.S. carrying out additional strikes on Iranian-linked targets, and Iran has responded by targeting interests connected to Gulf states aligned with Washington. The latest exchange raising fears that what began as a regional confrontation could widen into a broader Middle East crisis involving multiple countries, energy infrastructure, and major shipping routes. Let's head over to Kyle Matthews, co-founder and executive director of the Montreal Institute for Global Security. He's on the line. Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
Great, Elias. Thanks for having me on again.
So I wonder how you view this, because, I'll view it from this perspective. Like, the markets, right? If we'll recall, ever since this Iran-U.S. conflict broke out, there had been ups and downs. Oh, my God, oil prices shoot up, that kind of stuff. And that still happens to some extent. But it almost seems like the markets are saying, oh, man, okay, another day, another Trump crisis, whatever, it'll all work out. It seems like there's a lot of the market that feels that way now. How do you view this? Are you just viewing this more as theatrics, or is there something far more serious happening here?
I believe there's something far more serious. You're right, the markets have responded to the Straits of Hormuz being closed. They're nowhere near as open as they were before this conflict started. And that's having a real impact on economies, maybe not in North America, but in Asia, in Australia. They're all being impacted by a lack of access to the energy coming out of the Gulf. It's having an impact on Gulf states as well, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE. So this is an issue that the Iranians have managed to kind of, I said this before on your show other times, to control the Straits of Hormuz and use it as a form of economic warfare. So I do think it's long term, and we're nowhere near being close to being able to resolve this.
And those days where we had a ceasefire and a memorandum of understanding, that's done. There's no going back there. Or could we wake up Monday and, like, Donald Trump has tweeted Sunday night, I've spoken to them and we have a new deal. That's why I'm sort of skeptical when I hear stories in this conflict, because it seems like every day it comes back to where it was.
Well, that's exactly it. And despite President Trump saying at the start that we don't need NATO's help, we've defeated Iran, they're defeated. Then he's angry at NATO the next day for not doing enough. And then, it's going back and forth. This hasn't been resolved from a military perspective. And Trump did say at the NATO summit in Ankara, where he was this week in Turkey, that the deal was off, the peace deal was off. They can keep on negotiating, but he doesn't see going forward with it. But then what does the U.S. do? Does it launch a larger scale war and an invasion of Iran? I don't see that happening. But it then leaves us in a very tenuous situation where it's not resolved. So
you brought up the NATO meetings here. I'd love to know your thoughts as to what came out of the NATO meeting. It doesn't seem like, just seeing, it seems like everyone got along reasonably well. So I just wonder your thoughts as to what we saw there.
Well, listen, the NATO meeting, big things for Canada, announcing it's going to buy $100 billion subs from Germany, lots of support for the Defense Resilience Bank that would be in Canada, lots of good things for Canada there, but Iran wasn't really on the menu because NATO is a defensive war. It's not an offensive capability. So if Iran falls outside of the NATO discussions, but Trump threatening he wanted Greenland again kind of set the whole NATO meeting off in the wrong direction to start with.
But again, it's just like, okay, he said that. Does anyone take him seriously? And by the way, you wonder how seriously Iran takes him. If I'm asking the question about NATO leaders, about Iranian leaders. So I wonder if they're actually paying attention to those words, or now they all put that aside, and what matters is, what State Department officials say in the background.
Yeah. No, listen, I think words matter. I mean, when they're said from a president to the most powerful country on the planet, it means something. It sends a signal. And we saw Trump's verbal threats against Greenland had the Danish government send extra troops there and actually and blood supplies. They thought there was going to be an invasion. So words do matter. They signal intention. And we know Trump can make decisions that aren't strategic, and he sends us into a direction. But I do think Iran takes Trump seriously. He killed the Ayatollah. We just found out this morning the Wall Street Journal has credible reports that there is a new attempt by Iran to assassinate Trump.
Yeah.
So I think the Iranians see him as an archenemy and one that they want to target with all of their religious fervor.
Do you think, in light of midterms coming up, right, in November in the United States, do you think we're in store for a prolonged period of unease as opposed to, a full scale escalation by the U.S.?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't see anything right now that signifies that the U.S. has the will and the appetite to engage in a large-scale invasion. We're talking about needing 500,000 troops to invade. I don't see that. So things could change, but I'm not seeing that change. So I think we will see these tit-for-tat attacks. The U.S. launched 170 attacks against Iranian targets on Tuesday and Wednesday. Mm-hmm. That's 17 times more than the previous outbreak of violence just a couple weeks ago. So I think we'll see more of this, but also American stockpiles have been depleted in this conflict, so it doesn't have necessarily a lot on hand to throw more into the fight.
You mentioned near the top, right, that this is affecting the economies. Europe and Asia, Australia, they're being really affected by this. Maybe the U.S. is somewhat isolated because of the differences of where you're getting oil supplies and the United States increasing their oil production. But what do you do if you're Europe, if you're Asia, if you're in Australia and New Zealand? What do you do and your economies are truly being affected? What do you do right now?
Well, there's no magical solution. There isn't extra supplies. There's been a lot of interest to sign deals with Canada, but it takes us a long time to build energy infrastructure from getting shovels in the ground to getting approval and pipelines built. That doesn't happen overnight. So that's why we're in this sluggish kind of thing that nobody knows what they can do. And some countries are already using their strategic oil reserves. There's a limitation on flights. So I think this is going to have a bigger impact, like a slow burn on the economy that is going to affect Asia and Europe more than the U.S., but that also will impact the U.S. economy as well.
Are there countries that are closer to Iran that have a role to play here in this conflict?
Well, yeah. What we've seen this week is that Pakistan was playing the role of the mediator, trying to find a deal, but now Qatar has jumped in and is playing a much outsized role, and Qatar has been a close ally of Iran, and we saw tensions between Saudi Arabia and Qatar over that just a couple of years ago. But I think Qatar is trying to play a role, but we're stuck in this situation where we have a theocracy that's radicalized. We have a president that seems to change his decision every day, and that brings us together with two kind of forces that showcase perhaps we're not going to get out of this crisis anytime soon.
We heard Donald Trump in that clip coming in saying, they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it, and I just wonder, all of this chaos. Is it worth it if at the end of the day it does stop that from happening? Is it worth it here? What's going on?
Well, I think it's a legitimate concern. The Iranian government is not a normal government. They're a religious theocracy. They want to get nuclear weapons first and foremost to destroy Israel. That they've said that openly. It can't be debated. And they also want to use that as a cover to threaten their neighbors and spread the their Islamic revolution globally. And you know, we've seen Iranian kill 600,000 people in Syria during the civil war. Like, this is not a nice regime. So I think all should be done to prevent them from getting a nuke.
Is there, Kyle, before I have to let you go, is there an angle here that I haven't brought up that you think is worthy of discussion, that everyone should be talking about, that I've missed here?
I mean, there's an angle is that I would just say is that people need to know that Iran has been deeply aligned with Russia and China, and not only have killed a lot of people in Syria and the Middle East, but have conducted terrorist attacks globally, and also is helping the invasion of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, threatening Europe. So Iran is not a neutral figure here. They are an aggressor state, and we should not see them as much as we dislike Trump. We shouldn't see the Iranian regime as being some positive force on the world stage.
Kyle, going to leave it there. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Elias.
Kyle Matthews, co-founder, executive director of the Montreal Institute for Global Security. Up next is the era of cheap electricity. 7 cents a kilowatt hour are cheap hydro bills. Is that era coming to an end? We'll discuss with Marty Patriquin of The Logic.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app. Montreal, the everyday and the extraordinary. The Elias Makos Show on CJAD 800.
Oh, maybe you simply don't know how good we've had it here in Quebec when it comes to electricity and energy. Now, this week in The Logic, Marty Patriquin writes, Quebecers, North America's energy drunkards, are about to get a lesson in sobriety. After decades of cheap electricity, well, the party may be coming to an end here in Quebec. Let's head over to Martin Patriquin, Quebec correspondent for The Logic. He's on the line. Marty, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Elias, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, and, you know, I've been pounding on this front for a long time on this show, and I know our listeners love to complain about Hydro-Quebec. Every time you have a blackout, and there are prolonged blackouts here, especially in parts of, you know, Anglo-Dom in Montreal, I can understand the frustration, right? I get it. I really get it when you feel in NDG and Côte St. Luc that the power's always out, so I understand the frustration. But, as you write this week, Quebec, we've had it so good when it comes to the cost of electricity. Let's start there. For those who don't know, just how good do we have it? Have we had it here in Quebec?
Cheapest in North America, by far, both residentially and for commercial applications and usage.
Not even close if we compare, like, you know, you brought up Ontario and California. Give us the goods there.
Ontario, I think we pay... I believe in the case of you know, it's less than half than in Ontario, depending, because they have peak usage rates, which we don't, which is another part of the story. But it's, you know, it's way less than half in Ontario, and I think it's about 20% of what they pay in California.
20% of what they pay in California. Okay, so, you know, that's interesting, because you can think about an energy bill that's $200. Same bill in California would be $1,000. That's just crazy. Now, Marty, I can say, well, that's with good reason. Like, we have so much hydro. Mm-hmm. We've been world leaders. We have so much. We're just selling it everywhere. So shouldn't it be cheap, Marty? We've got so much of it.
Certainly. Look, the experts I spoke to basically said, yes, we're never going to get, you know, price parity with Ontario or California, nor should we, by the way, because purchasing power in Quebec is obviously lower than those places. But what I would say is that our sort of like generational use of cheap power has basically turned us into these drunkards, as I mentioned in the piece, in large part because we don't conserve. Look at California. Look what the electricity market has done to California. It's probably among the most energy efficient societies in North America because they do things like triple pane windows. They use heat pumps instead of baseboard heaters and that kind of thing. They've done all sorts of this stuff simply because it's worth it for them to do it. It's not worth it for us to do it. I wrote a piece about this, and it's, as you say, you talk a lot about Hydro-Quebec and kind of things. I do too. I wrote a piece about this 3 years ago, and I just took my own example. I live in a nice house in Point St. Charles, and it's built in the 19th century, and it's insulated with like freaking horsehair and newspapers. You know what I mean? And there is no incentive on my part, from my own goodwill and the fact that I don't like to waste, to retrofit any of that, just because it's so cheap to heat, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if my energy was, I don't know, a few points higher, it would be worth my while. And so that's the situation, writ small. For the entire province. But
Marty, I can point out, there are programs for heat pumps, let's say. Like, I just installed heat pumps, and I think I'm going to get $2,200 back from the government, because they want you to switch over to heat pumps. So there are some things that the government is doing to try and get people to reduce consumption.
100%. The only thing I'd say to that is that program's really, really late in coming. They've only recently done it comparatively to places like California. The other thing, too, of course, is that the technology in heat pumps has gotten exponentially better in the last five years. I've actually had the misfortune of having a bad install 5 years ago, and then I had to redo it, and the new ones are like exponentially better.
Yeah, miles ahead.
Miles ahead. But my only point in that is that yes, we do these things. But the adoption rates, I would argue, for energy consumption initiatives in Quebec are far lower than in California, because it's simply not, it doesn't pencil out in the lower short or middle term as they do in California and obviously Ontario.
Talking about Quebec's hydroelectricity with Marty Patriquin from The Logic. Now, Marty, I know you're a sports guy because I've played on a softball diamond with you. So let me give you a sports analogy. When a team is up 3-0 in a playoff series, and then they blow the 3-0 lead. I kind of sometimes feel like Quebec, with our hydroelectricity, we had a 3-0 lead in electricity North America wise, and maybe we're blowing it. Is that a fair assessment?
Look, I don't think we're gonna blow it. It's so, the stuff that we have as a society, this electricity, is so much more valuable now than even 10 years ago, just given energy consumption rates. If you look at the curve over the last decade. So I don't think we're going to blow it. I think we're very, very well positioned. I think we will continue to be. The difference is, as far as I see it, and this is what the experts I spoke to, is there's a difference between, having to go out and build these massive, river bending, infrastructure projects like hydro dams and that kind of thing, putting up wind farms and that kind of stuff. If we can conserve to the extent that, say, they do in California or in some places in Northern Europe, we don't necessarily have to do those projects because we can save that energy, and the energy we save, we can sell. Mm-hmm. And it's exponentially better for the society. Do you know what I mean? And it's building a dam is very, very difficult. It's much more easy to retrofit what you already have. The problem is it's not, and this is not blaming the consumer by any means. The problem is it's really good for a politician. And I remember Philippe Couillard did it, coming out and announcing a massive infrastructure project. Because it looks really, really good.
Yeah, it's building.
It's way less sexy for that same politician to go, you know what, you should caulk your windows.
Yeah, but Marty, on the other side here, we need to talk about demand. Not lost on me this week, Meta announces a gigawatt AI center that they're going to build, and it's not going to be in cheap electricity Quebec. They're going to Alberta, okay? Mm-hmm. So, that's one of my concerns is, like, these companies, like, they're going to want to use electricity for AI and other reasons, right? We want them to come to Quebec. I want them to come to Quebec. It'll make us all richer, but what if we can't meet the demands of all those big projects? Isn't that a worry?
It is certainly a worry, and Hydro-Quebec's actually been pretty good about that. Hydro-Quebec, about, I want to say 3 months ago, announced the fact that they want to bring in AI data centers. Like they were really for crypto, then they were really against crypto. For obvious reasons. And now they are really pro. They're really pro AI data centers. The difference is, and this is very indicative of the way it should go, they were like, we're not going to give you the same price that we give to, say, aluminum smelters, which are like enshrined into law. You're going to pay this special rate. And the bet on the part of the Hydro-Quebec, and I think it's probably a good one, is that data centers, Meta and what have you, are going to will pay that rate, because even increased, it's still cheaper to do it here than it is in places in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Add to that, too, our climate. There's 6 months of the year where you don't have to cool things because of the temperature here.
Very true, right? So much of data centers is keeping things cool, and you don't need to do that December, January, February, March, even April and May in this province.
That's right. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes when I went to. I've been to crypto centers or data centers, and it's crazy, like the amount of heat that those places generate, and what you don't have to do in winter to keep that heat down.
Just a couple of things, crystal ball stuff here. You know, it was a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how Hydro was looking at targeting big homes. You know, the homes with the 2-car garage and the pool that has to be heated and that kind of stuff, and charging them more. And also talk of letting you get high on your own supply, putting your own solar panels up that you can then sell back to the system. You think they're going to dive deep on both of those things?
So the first thing is interesting. So that the column was basically anchored around that fact, is that they're increasing prices for people that consume a lot. I think it's 35,000 megawatts a year. Anyway, please don't quote me. It's in the column.
Yeah, it's more than double the average. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it targets those people, which is something in the order of 200,000 households in Quebec. So this is a baby step, and it's sort of a reflection of the fact that there is a realization on the part of Hydro-Quebec that people really like paying for cheap power and don't want it increased. So they can't do too much because they might face a real revolt on the part of customers. But it's a baby step, and it's a precedent. So you do it with this, and precedents are easily broken down, right? So you can the top half, like say it's 200,000 now, put it down at 400,000 people that consume more than the average, but not as much as the people we were just talking about. Yeah. There's ways to get around that. As far as like selling power back to put into the grid, look, Hydro-Quebec 10, 15 years ago was dead set against the idea.
Yeah.
There was no way you're going to be able to do that. They've been doing it in, I have family in Connecticut. They've been doing it there for, 15, 20 years. Hydro-Quebec was against it. They are now for it. They like the idea of it. And part of it, again, is existing supply. Hydro-Quebec has a water issue in northern Quebec right now, and production capacity is down because of the lack of water. So any power that we can sell back is power that they don't have to generate, several thousand kilometers away from there.
Marty, I got to leave it there. I'm going to direct all of our listeners to your piece in The Logic. Quebec's era of endless cheap electricity is coming to an end. And if you have an Apple News subscription, it's included in that if you want to read that piece in The Logic. Marty, thanks so much. Come back soon.
Thanks a lot.
All right, when we return on the Elias Makos Show, we're going to keep the Quebec mindset going here, Quebec economy mindset, and we're going to talk about how the CAQ ran the economy for the last 8 years, and a particular way they ran the economy that some people are saying was the wrong way to do things. That's coming up next.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
And more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away. Time is valuable. Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Makos Show on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Welcome back to the Elias Makos Show. Now, since the CAQ came to power in 2018, subsidies to businesses have gone up by 50%. That's according to new numbers compiled by the Montreal Economic Institute. In 2024 alone, Quebec government granted more than $8.5 billion to businesses. It's $900 per taxpayer. Now, Christine Frechette says the government's going to scale back a little bit of its interventionist strategy, but it may not be going anywhere near where we need to go when it comes to subsidies, the enormous amount of subsidies we give to businesses. Let's go to Renaud Brossard, Vice President of Communications at the Montreal Economic Institute. He's on the line. Renaud, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
So listen, okay, the case has been made. The numbers have gone up 50% over the last 8 years. But tell our listeners why that's a bad thing.
Well, it's a bad thing because it's their money. It's their money that's being spent in a way that hasn't really worked when it comes to growing Quebec's economy. If you look at a lot of the major subsidies that were announced, Nordvolt, Lion Electric, Nemaska Lithium, a lot of these companies are either in difficulty or have been foreclosed since then. When we look at the way that Quebec has been subsidizing businesses for the last 40 years, you will find a lot of businesses that have gone through the cycle where politicians said this was the next best thing to sliced bread, and that it turned out to be a huge flop, and that has cost taxpayers significant amounts of money. It's essentially why people should be worried about the fact it has increased by 50% since the CAQ took office.
Now, listen, you accomplished something this week. You got François Legault to come out of his lair since resigning and post to social media, post to X, and kind of defend his record. And he says, wait a minute, we spent a lot of money on subsidies, but guess what? There were results, and we made Quebec the richest it's been, and our rendement was this, and it was fantastic. So what do you say to the former premier who says, yeah, we spent money, but there were dividends to spending those, to putting that money there?
Well, there's two things. Correlation is not the same as causation. The fact that the CAQ spent money on subsidies, sure, it spent money on subsidies, but that doesn't negate the fact that Quebec entrepreneurs have been having great ideas and doing good things, clearly. But if I may, I'll take from one of former Premier Legault's old tricks, and I'll just compare us to Ontario. Quebec has had better growth than Ontario since the CAQ took office. That's true. But Ontario, instead of increasing subsidies by 50%, has increased them much more than Quebec did.
Wow.
In 2017, actually, Ontario has managed to become the corporate welfare king in all of Canada, and growth wasn't as good as it was in Quebec. Look, I'm not making the case that the reason why Ontario had sluggish growth was because it subsidized more. But it just shows, that to try and make the case that Quebec grew because of this 50% increase in subsidies, if we were to believe that, Ontario should be booming right now, and it clearly is not.
Well, then can I ask you, was it unfair to target Quebec in the sense that it seems now, Renaud, this is just how we do business in Canada. The federal government, this is all they've done for the last decade. They believe they'll be in charge, they'll give subsidies, strike deals, give money to businesses, and they'll decide who succeeds. So it's not just provincially, Quebec, Ontario. It seems that's just how we do things in Canada now.
You're absolutely right, and it is problematic to see that there's a return of industrial policy and massive subsidies at the federal level, and honestly at every level of government. But part of what we do at the MEI is to try and raise the alarm whenever there's something that just doesn't make an economic sense. And when we look at the studies are clear. The subsidies, they have at best a very marginal effect in boosting the economy. And part of it is just a matter of incentives. When politicians choose what business to subsidize, they're not necessarily looking for the best financial return. They're often going with whatever is going to be the trend of the month in terms of investment. A couple of years ago, it was batteries. Batteries were all the rage. Before that, it was the Bombardier C-Series. Another premier used to say that, the big thing was going to be mines in the north. None of that led to significant economic growth. Mm-hmm. What could help, though, is if we looked at what else we could do with that money.
So
we looked at it in Quebec.
Yeah, so I wanted to get to that because I'm like, okay, $8.5 billion. Instead of giving it away as handouts, what else could we do?
Well, the thing we could do is just not take it in people's pockets in the first place. So instead of taking $8.5 billion away from companies, from every single company in Quebec, and then distribute it to a couple of politically favored firms, we did the math, and we saw that if we were to give a corporate tax reduction with this money, instead of using it to subsidize, we could lower Quebec's corporate tax rate from 11.5% to 4.5%. What this means is that even when we account for federal taxes, Quebec would become, and this is weird, the lowest tax jurisdiction in all of North America. If we were able to do this.
Are you kidding me? If we stopped giving out subsidies, we could take the corporate tax rate from 11.5% to 4.5%. That's what you just said.
Yep. And so with the feds, that would be a combined rate of 19.5%. That would be lower than every single U.S. state. And if we're looking at something that would boost our economy, it would probably have a better result than to put hundreds of millions of dollars in Nordvolt.
We're so dumb, Renaud. We're so dumb, and at a time where we're talking about U.S. trade and what Donald Trump's doing. You want to fight? You actually want to fight against Donald Trump? Cut that tax. Because that's something. That's why we've been losing businesses choosing the U.S. over Canada. Often it comes down to corporate taxes. So it's just mind-boggling.
It does. And it comes to taxes, it comes to regulation, but ultimately, we don't know what's going to happen with Trump. It's an element that we can't control. We don't know what's going to happen with the trade deal. I hope we keep a good trade deal with the U.S. It would be beneficial for both U.S. and Canada. But there's one thing that we can control, and that's what we do to ourselves. And that is our tax bill. That's our high level of regulation. These are things that our governments control that they can actually act on, and that would meaningfully change what it means to do business in Quebec and in Canada. And that would actually bring businesses back here, or at least help some of them stay.
Renaud, got to leave it there. Thanks for coming on. You have a great weekend.
You too. Always a pleasure.
Renaud Brossard, VP of Communications at the Montreal Economic Institute. When we return on the Elias Makos Show. Now, yesterday at Trudeau Airport, bit of a harrowing situation. Everyone was okay. That flight from LA to Montreal that was veered off the taxiway, the runway, depending on what story you read. Now, if you think that'd be a situation, if you're on the plane and that would be like nightmare fuel for you, like to hear us go through a story like that or a situation like that, I'm going to tell you about what happened to a flight this morning in Europe. Everyone's okay, but it is particularly a story of nightmare fuel. And we'll have Joanne Vrakas' take on that as she comes into our studios. All right, let's do
the newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.
Montreal, the everyday and the extraordinary. The Elias Makos Show on CJAD 800.
a little bit of 50 Cent for Joanne Vrakas as she's come into our studios here.
Go Shorty.
Go Shorty, it's your birthday.
It's almost your new son's birthday. We're waiting patiently.
Second.
It's so exciting. I remember my second pregnancy. I was, I had cesareans, so they were scheduled because I had to.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine sort of waiting for your water to break and just saying,
"Oh, Olivia's waiting, all right."
Yeah,
spicy
foods.
Now we want.
Spicy
she
foods.
doesn't like spicy foods, but now we want the baby to come. It's 41 weeks, and we'd like the baby
41 weeks
to arrive.
is induction.
And it was like 2 weeks ago. We were like 2 weeks ago. I was a little bit like anxious, like, "Oh my God, it's coming already!" You know. And now I'm like, "Okay, let's go. Let's get the show on the road."
My sister was a week late, and they had to back in the day use the spoons to get her out, and she had like a weird corn head for a very long time.
Yeah. And sometimes
they don't do that anymore.
They use a suction, I think. They use like a vacuum.
We need to get an OB/GYN on the line post his.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Anywho, Olivia's great. We're just in holding pattern.
I'm excited for you.
Baby number 2's coming. And
Two boys.
We've got a name, and as long as the name matches the face, we have a name.
I'm sure as soon as you see that baby boy, you say that hey, we were waiting to meet you, and you're going to be part of the 2-boy club.
Totally. And I have a book.
2 sons.
We have a book for my son. It's like, I'm a big brother now, and it goes through how great it is to be a big brother and all that stuff.
I have to tell you, the thing that's going to shock you the most is when you leave Wolfie to go to the hospital. As your baby, when you come home and realize he's a big boy, you're gonna start sobbing.
I know.
You're gonna be like, "No, you're still my baby," but he'll be so big, and you don't realize how big.
I know. He is a big boy.
And then please film the moment where they're meeting each other.
Well, listen, I'll film plenty.
Yeah.
But we don't.
Not for sharing. I just mean for you to have.
No, totally. But even there, like, I'm judicious about those.
Well,
recording
just when they're
moments.
first saying hello.
I agree. Totally agree. Okay, Joanne, I need to get to other stuff.
Talk to me.
Non-baby stuff for a second.
Talk to me.
I want to talk about nightmare fuel. Fuel for your nightmares, okay?
All of my ex-boyfriends. Proceed.
So you saw yesterday, Trudeau Airport, that Air Canada flight veered off the taxiway. Everyone's okay, by the way, but, I'm sure if you're on that plane and you're stuck there for hours, as the passengers were, not a fun experience.
No.
Now, okay, that could be something you don't want to go through. But ladies and gentlemen, and Joanne, I have some real plane nightmare fuel for you, and it comes from a place you know and love, Thessaloniki.
Love Thessaloniki.
So here's Agence France Presse. You can read this story on the CTV News website. Thessaloniki, Greece. A man was nearly sucked out of the window of a Ryanair flight.
Well, Ryanair, first of all.
Do you even get a seat? When it detached midair en route to Germany, with other passengers pulling him back inside.
Stop.
A witness told Greek media on Friday. The passenger, described as a tourist from Serbia on a flight from Thessaloniki in Greece to Memmingen in Germany, was hospitalized with friction burns, but was otherwise in good condition. Well, because all's well that ends well. He's alive.
Right.
Was hospitalized with burns, otherwise in good condition, friction burns, authorities said. Here's the quotes. Quotes from the passengers. Most of us had fallen asleep. We had closed our eyes. There was a noise like a tire bursting.
Oh, no.
Again, nightmare fuel, fellas. How about you guys in the booth? This is going to be great for the weekend. Most of us fall asleep. Then there was a noise like a tire bursting. A fellow passenger told Radio Thessaloniki. Gotta listen to that. We immediately realized there had been a decompression. There were screams. For a moment, I thought someone had accidentally opened the emergency door, the woman said. The masks dropped and there was a strong smell. The head and shoulders of one of the passengers was outside the window.
Stop right now.
Shout out to the original Final Destination, by the way.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
Oh, there goes my heart. Fortunately, he hadn't taken off his seatbelt.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's seatbelt sign.
Imagine no seatbelt.
Out. He's gone. And then everybody else gets sucked out. I imagine it's like space where everything just gets sucked out. I was just going
to think they did that on a Star Trek episode once. Okay. Fortunately, he hadn't taken off his seatbelt.
His head and shoulders.
Other passengers near the man helped to pull him in.
By his feet? Legs?
By his legs, by his body. Now, I mean, he was still in the air with the seatbelt.
His head was outside.
So by his body. So video circulating on social media, which has not been independently verified, but has been circulating on social media, purportedly shows the inside of the plane after the incident with a broken window and oxygen masks hanging from the ceiling. No passengers visible. Okay. Now, by the way, this happens. This now from CBS News. I'll quote from them. A woman died in a similar sounding incident in the U.S. in 2018.
Ryanair as
well?
Doesn't say.
Aviation, it's time. Let's see. Southwest.
Oh.
Southwest Airlines in 2018.
So now we're not allowed any carry-ons and the windows are not secured? What are we doing?
I don't know.
What are we doing?
Greek media. Let's get back to the Greek media.
Yes.
Greek media reported the incident had occurred over North Macedonia, said the window had been broken by a piece of debris that detached from one of the plane's engines. Now, so it's, so something had to happen here. Ryanair in a statement said the flight returned to Thessaloniki shortly after takeoff when a passenger window detached during the flight. The aircraft landed normally and the passengers returned to the terminal. Way to bury the lead, Ryanair.
Ryanair then proceeded to charge him for the additional experience.
Yes, that's right. Well, yeah, the
rights to tell
open
the
window
story.
fee.
The right. Yes, exactly.
Replacement aircraft was made available for the remaining passengers.
That is. Now, see, first of all, these things are rare, but I will have to say that is cuckoo bonkers. That his head and shoulders were out first. Was he? Hopefully he became unconscious immediately. Can you imagine your head out the window while you're screaming?
Okay, now listen. You survive, everything's all well, you land, you're okay.
Buy a lottery ticket.
And you're physically, you're okay.
Mentally, though.
Do you take it for the story you have for the rest of your life? You think you went through something.
Yeah. That's a shark attack survival story.
Seriously.
Yeah. Like this scar is from the time that the Ryanair sucked me out the window.
Joanne, listen.
Yeah.
Top that. What's on your show? Top that segment.
Well, there was a time. No, I'm kidding. We have a really fun show. Chuck Hughes is going to be on. We're talking about, can you believe it's been 20 years since Garde Manger has been open?
Wow.
I remember going there 20 years ago when it first opened, and it was this cool niche. I was hanging out with all the cool old
kids.
Montreal guys, you know. And we were there, and it was very, it was very niche. Anyway, 20 years in that business makes absolutely no sense.
You know, you've made it when the cookware with your name comes out.
And he's selling olive oil.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Greek olive oil, by the way. So that's coming up. Also, what to do with your teens during the summer months, right? They're too old for camp. You don't want them to be, lazy on the couch, bed rotting and phone scrolling.
Did you hear about this 11-year-old? I said at 10 o'clock.
If this involves another flight.
No. Okay. 11-year-old, that decided he lives in Toronto. And he decides, I'm just going to go to all my neighbors and say,
I heard that in the car on the way over. That's amazing.
$10, let me clean your bin. And he's making boatloads of money just cleaning everyone's disgusting recycling compost garbage bins.
He's making bin loads
of money.
Yeah. And so much more. I know I'm looking at the clock. We're running out of time, but it's going to be exciting stuff. Dr. Labos is joining us from Greece, by the way. He's still doing the show from Greece. Speaking of the fatherland, which Greeks don't call the motherland, it's the fatherland. Talking about dairy. Is dairy really that bad for us, by the way?
No, it's amazing.
We're the only mammals who continue to consume dairy past infancy. I love dairy. Life without cheese.
We're the only mammals with opposable thumbs. Are opposable thumbs bad?
Do you want me to leap over this table?
Milk is amazing. Ice cream is amazing. I had ice cream. Ice cream is the best thing of all time.
Ice cream makes me thirsty. I don't like it.
You just have some water.
No. But what's the point then? I'm not doing this.
By the way, how much money do you think he gets from the airlines? A listener wants to ask that question. How much money do you get from Ryanair?
Once he recovers from his concussion, I hope a lot. I just quickly, when I used to travel Ryanair when I was younger, because it was so cheap.
It's great.
But you had to wear all your clothes because they would charge the fee for. So I would call it the Ryanair snowsuit. I would wear all my bathing suits, 4 pairs of sandals, 17
and no
hats.
bag.
No, I was just wearing all of my underwear and all.
That's great. I like EasyJet. I've taken EasyJet. And there's another one out there in the Europe that's cheap too.
Dans les Europe? Which one?
Yeah, there's another cheap carrier.
Well, Ryanair, though, when they started thinking that they were going to charge for the bathrooms.
And take out the bathrooms even. They said if we could take out the bathrooms, we would. And then sell the space.
Well, then you got to be responsible for what happens.
3 hours of great radio on both Saturday and Sunday, 6 to 9 a.m. with
You
Joanne
may
Vrakas.
be a dad the next time I chat with you. I mean, it's for the second time. Yeah.
Have a good weekend, Joanne.
I'll stop talking.
We're going to wrap up the show next.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And that's our show here on the Elias Makos Show. Joke on the text line, they should make a Head & Shoulders commercial out of that guy on that Ryanair flight. Got dandruff? Head & Shoulders in the wind during a plane malfunction. All right. Sounded better when I first read it. That's our show today. Yeah, iffy. Max says, gives me the iffy there. Maxim Kadat is producing this one. Andrew Malik, second week. Andrew, you're done now. Your 2-week tour of duty here.
That's it for me.
It's great stuff. Thanks, Andrew. Andrew in for Jay Farrar. Thanks, fellas, for a great show this whole week. And you listening right now, you're the absolute best as well. I'll be here on Monday. If there's no baby, I'll be here on Monday. Kind of sort of hoping we get this baby out. But we shall see. Have a great weekend. Catch you real soon.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll.
I'm coming to get you!
One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.
You're listening to the Voice of Montreal.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
An iHeartRadio station.
This newscast is brought to you by Supermarché Acavan. Cool off this summer with fresh, sweet watermelon from Supermarché Acavan. Choose from juicy whole watermelons or freshly sliced, ready to enjoy.
Listen, and you're there for heart-wrenching knockouts.
World's biggest stage.
And breathtaking triumph. 2026 FIFA World Cup. The knockout stage. Every match, every moment. Listen on TSN Radio. Join the globe on the road to the July 19th final. 2026 FIFA World Cup. Stream it all live on TSN Radio. Available on iHeartRadio.